But occasionally people will hear me say things that refer to a video. And if I do that, there we are. If and when I do that, know that we are on Facebook in the Hour of the Wolf group, and we are on YouTube on my channel, which I'm actually now building into a channel. I have many, many years of things going on. So I'm trying to build that all up for people to enjoy, and it's all free. So on YouTube, you just search for my name, Freund, and on Facebook, Hour of the Wolf. And that will take care of it all. And our guest today has been on before, although it's been a while, and then we were face to face at a convention, and I think it was probably a ReaderCon, not that it matters. But Sally Wiener Grotta is an award-winning writer, photographer, and speaker who, if you weren't a speaker, this would be a very poor radio show, whose books include The Winter Boy and JoJo. That's J-O, second word, J-O-E. Her articles, essays, and stories have appeared in scores of publications. Her newest books are Of Being Women, from Noble Fusion Press, a collection of feminist science fiction stories, and Daughters of Eve, Bayit Publishing. Bayit is B-A-Y-I-T. An essay discussion, now if only I could talk, workbook that mines the tales of biblical matriarchs as a filter to discuss modern lives, concerns, and crises. As a journalist, Sally has traveled on assignment throughout the world. And let me interrupt her proper copy to say, when I took a look at what some of those places were and the photographs that she took in those places, it was jaw-dropping. So she's been throughout the world to all the continents, plus many remote islands covering a wide diversity of culture and traditions. Sally's far-ranging experiences flavor her stories and presentations with a sense of wonder, appreciation for human potential, and a healthy dose of common sense. Despite that, this is WBAI in New York. Sally is co-curator of Galactic Philadelphia Salon Reading Series and a member of the Authors Guild and Science Fiction Fantasy Writers of America. So properly now, hi, Sally.
Hi, Jim. I'm thrilled to be here again.
Yeah, likewise.
Albeit virtually.
Yeah, but I've been doing the show this way for 3 years. Mm-hmm. So I'm used to it. And there are a lot of advantages to it.
Yes.
Like the fact that you are, where are you now?
I'm home in the Poconos.
You are in the Poconos.
Okay. Yes. I didn't have to brave the Brooklyn traffic to come see you.
Right. And nice. I am in Brooklyn. I will actually be near the Poconos in a couple of weeks.
Oh.
I'm going to Arrowhead, which is the Virginia Kid Literary Agency.
Oh, nice.
Where they annually do an outdoor thing. It's because it's outdoors that I dare go to it. The last time they had 2 official readers, one of them was Barbara Krasnoff. And this time out, it's Charles Gannon and another wonderful person, mutual friend of ours. But I'm not going to shout upstairs to Barbara to ask who it is. I'll remember in the middle of your reading. And then I'll say, Karen Hewler. That's it.
Oh, I love Karen.
Yes. Well, you should attend.
I'm so busy this autumn. It's crazy.
Okay.
I'll probably be at the Authors Guild WIT Festival in Massachusetts at the same time that you'll be at Arrowhead.
Yeah, this will be in 2 or 3 weeks. I don't recall which.
That's about then.
At the same time as the Milford Literary Festival.
Oh, yeah. So
which
A lot
actually,
going on in September.
Virginia Kid, I believe, is one of the people who started that.
I believe so. Yes.
But they started getting very mainstream, and so
Yeah.
they've split off into the Arrowhead Virginia Kid Festival
Oh,
and the Milford Festival. So
interesting.
a lot of good science fiction people. It's like a teensy con. It's smaller than a mini con because
Aw.
there are maybe 25 people.
Oh,
And
25 people total or 25 people
total,
guests?
total.
Total. That's very small.
Yeah, well, as I said,
Yeah.
no, there are 2 guests. That's
Okay.
it. Sometimes it's like, oh, look who's here. One of our clients, and they do represent Barbara
Hmm.
at the Virginia Kid Agency, and they might say,
Nice.
oh, we've got 10 minutes. Barbara, why don't you read for 10 minutes? Or something like that. And then there's
Lovely.
a dinner, and there's a barbecue, and that's the whole thing.
Oh, sounds like fun.
It's
Sounds lovely.
and it's free, and it's a teensy con.
Lovely.
Yeah, so it's a lot of fun. So at some other point offline, we'll have a discussion about the Poconos
Yes.
in case Brooklyn becomes too much of a thunderstorm. As is
A lot of my friends are having that discussion with me.
thunderstorms? No, Poconos. Yeah,
No, coconuts.
Poconos. Yeah, it's always been a lovely place.
Yeah. Yeah.
My parents took me there. As
A lot of very interesting people live in them there woods.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a beautiful area, just a beautiful area.
I love it.
So I had referred to your photographs from your bio, but just saying that isn't enough. Sally, I first knew Sally and her unfortunately late husband Daniel from when I was at Ziff Davis. And I was the New York representative of ZiffNet, which
Right.
later on got sold off and became ZDNet. But this was the original one and only ZiffNet. And Sally and Daniel were writing for PC Magazine,
Mhm.
which is one of our publications. And I had the keys to the kingdom. I had free CompuServe accounts to give out to
Yes.
writers and people there are a great many important people in the world who are now like online people and all that, who I gave them their first email.
Yes. Yeah.
Most of the people at PC Magazine.
And I was dumbfounded. You had to guide me. I had no idea what to do with the damn thing.
Well,
And
that,
look at me now.
that was exactly my job, was
Yeah.
to guide people at first, to explain people what was
Yes.
online, to explain to the editors why,
Yes.
even though we were putting articles online, and the writers, why people would still buy the damned magazines and all that. So this is how I first met Sally and Daniel. Daniel then did double duty for me later because he was, of all the various people I've interviewed, and I've interviewed a lot of them, probably the best expert on Tolkien that I ever met, with the exception of one person who I spoke to briefly, who was Tolkien.
Although sometimes we are the least expert about ourselves.
Yeah, not he.
Okay.
He was, after all, a don
Yeah.
at either Cambridge or Oxford,
Right.
or both, and he did a lot of study. And the reason I was calling him was to get a pronunciation of a name, and the narrator of the piece that we were doing gave me the phone number, and didn't tell me who I was calling
Oh.
on purpose. On purpose. He said it was about the only way to get me to shut up. It worked.
Very good.
But Daniel, I think he wrote a couple of monographs.
Well, he wrote the first a biography of J.R. Tolkien, at which time the family wasn't pleased that the official biography would be coming out after that. So they sent around letters to Tolkien's buddies to say, "Do not talk to this man. He doesn't have our authorization," which of course meant they all talked to him.
Of
Because
course.
they were so fronted. And I have to go through the attic. He had some remarkable correspondence with a couple of them.
Yeah.
And among other things, I have to go through his archives someday
Yes, you do.
when
And,
I'm
and
not
at
on
some point, we
deadline.
should do a talk just about those
Yeah, yeah.
items and things. But I don't completely blame the family, because what happened was because due to copyright problems, meaning that the U.S. was not a part of the International Copyright Accord,
Hmm.
as Tolkien was getting ready to publish his books with Ballantine, Ian and Betty Ballantine at Ballantine Press. Ace Books just went ahead and published them because there was no international accord.
Right.
They
Yeah.
were able to do it, which is why
Yeah.
people who have the Ballantine books will see that there's a nice big marker on it saying, this is don't buy from anybody else. This is the official. So they had gone through trouble
Right.
with
But
people
the
grabbing.
thing is, when it's scholarship, to try to shut off access to scholarship actually doesn't serve Mr. Tolkien, doesn't properly, because you want to have as many voices remembering him soon after his death as possible.
Yeah, although I
Um,
don't think anybody's forgotten him.
no, but the stories that individuals had, a lot were lost. That's true with every death,
Mhm.
because the buddies are older and they go and the stories go with them. So the more researchers you have looking at the life of a person from the point of view of the people who really knew them, the better it is the for the legacy of the human being beyond the writer.
Yeah. But by this time, there are at least 5 biographies out
Oh
there,
yeah, oh yeah,
a few of which are still in print.
yeah.
Um, Tell me a little of the biography that we did not read about Sally Wiener Grotta.
Oh my, I am going through, as every writer does, another transition. I've always been a feminist writer. I've always been a Jewish writer, though most people don't recognize it as such. I mean, The Winter Boy, my spec fic
Right.
novel, it was essentially dripping with my Jewish heritage,
Hmm.
the philosophy that I was raised in, the humanistic philosophy that I was raised in. And of course, my novel Jojo is about a multi um, ethnic Jewish woman uh, dealing with prejudices both from the point of view of being a Jew and being dark skinned. Um, so that also had a lot. Well, now I'm going even more heavily into it. Um, I I find this collection, by the way, of Being Woman, the science fiction, this collection that just came out, the small science fiction collection that just came out. I find that very Jewish, but other Jews will see it, other people won't. It's just it's the way I think. But I'm now doing a lot of research. I'm not religious. I'm doing a lot of research in the Tanakh, which is Christians call the Old Testament, and I'm studying the women who are the archetypes of all women in Western civilization and have been used for us and against us to either to make us conform to what society wanted us to be or to help us blossom. And I'm reinterpreting it with the help of my readers. And I'm having a blast with this. So the next book that's coming out is Daughters of Eve, which is the essay discussion workbook that I was talking about. And I'm using the stories of the biblical women as a way to explore who we are today and who we want to be today.
Who's publishing Daughters of Eve?
Buy It Publishing, which is a wonderful, I mean,
It is. You want the book? Buy it.
Actually, Bayit means home in
Well,
Hebrew.
yes,
But yes, buy it,
yeah,
please.
yes.
It'll be out on December 1st, and it's broken into 12 modules, discussion modules, so that it could last a year for a discussion group that met on a monthly basis. And it's not just about Judaism. It's not just about religion. It's meant to be cross all generations and all barriers. Try to get people talking to each other, which is my aim with it. Like the first essay is, it starts with the premise: if you were magically transported into Eve's body before she picked the fruit of the tree of knowledge, would you, and why? And I give a lot of posits about what some people feel, and I give what some of the ancient rabbis said, what some of the current interpretations are, and then my interpretation, and then I ask everybody else's. I had a friend, Saroj, when I asked this question, I mentioned her in the essay. I said, well, would you? And she said, no, I don't like the world today. I don't want to live in this world. And I went, okay. I feel it was the first step to being a human being, the metaphorical step to being human being. Now, this essay, these essays are steeped in speculative thinking. So to me, there's no division in my mind between these science fiction stories that are totally out of this creative chaos that lives in here, and then dipping into research of biblical women. I find it's still speculative. It's still asking the eternal question that speculative fiction asks: what if and why not?
It would be an interesting exercise, if we can get the time to do it, for you to choose one of those essays, read it on the air, and then take listener phone calls to
That would be
ask
fun.
the questions that you posit.
That would be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I'd love it.
so
I'd love it.
Maybe we can do that even early December, which is when it's coming out.
That would be wonderful.
The end of December is always my annual Tolkien show.
Of course, yes. Everybody knows that one.
No, I hope so. It's been on since 1972. He died in 1971.
I didn't realize it was that long, but it was like, yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, we did it with his participation, and he died in 1971. So otherwise, people can, do the math. Pardon me, my web camera is making noise saying it's charged. So I unplug it, and that'll last for about 5 minutes. It's old. It's very old. Just loses power immediately.
It's not as old as the Tolkien broadcast, though.
No, not quite. No,
no.
but well, there are comparisons to be made. Did you want to read an excerpt of something? You don't have to.
I'd be delighted to.
Okay.
I could read an excerpt from the Being Woman that was just published by Noble Fusion Press. Don't you just love that cover? I love that cover. I've never had a publisher put so much energy into doing the right cover.
No, the radio listeners will have to imagine it.
Yeah, or come on to my website and see it.
And your website is?
SallyWienerGrotta.com. And you can spell Wiener, Wiener, which is the proper spelling, or Weiner, and both will get you to me. Sally with a Y, Grotta, Sally Wiener Grotta. So I can read, I'll be reading Chiaroscuro. It's a story in the collection. Chiaroscuro is a form of art or a style of art that Rembrandt is most famous for, and others, where light and dark define each other. And this is the story of Samantha, a young scientist, fearing the pain other people cause, creates an AI which she hopes will evolve beyond humanity and its malignity.
Okay.
I'm starting a little bit into the story. The red LEDs of Nona's camera blinked on as soon as Samantha entered the lab. She turned toward it so the AI could gauge her mood with facial and posture analyses. Good morning, Sam. You appear to be content today. Nona's agendered voice had just the right melodic inflection with no robotic overtones. Good morning, Nona. What have you learned since yesterday? I studied portrait artists, and particularly those Europeans who used chiaroscuro. Da Vinci, Rembrandt, Caravaggio. I don't need the list of artists. Tell me what you learned. I learned that light doesn't exist without shadow, but it isn't only about a technique of illumination in paintings. Some critics see chiaroscuro as a discourse on the human condition. Nona displayed a cascade of Rembrandt's paintings on his 40-inch monitor, then paused on a self-portrait of the artist. This picture is almost entirely in shadow. Only Rembrandt's face is illuminated, but it's the darkness of his hat, robe, hair, and nearly black background that make his face so vibrant. Similarly, the light on the face deepens the impact of the shadows. If you took away the dark areas, the face wouldn't look bright at all. Its radiance value is low, except perceptually, when surrounded by severe negatives. Yes, Nona, but why do you say that these contrasts embody the human condition? Reading various papers on chiaroscuro, I was reminded of psychological analyses I've scanned. Just as shadow and light are inseparable opposites, pain and pleasure are two extremes that delineate and define each other. Without one, the other is diminished. And yet, Nona, pain doesn't need the contrast of pleasure for a person to be scalded and scarred. I'm going to skip a few paragraphs. The next morning, as soon as Sam entered the lab, Nona asked a question. Sam shouldn't have been surprised. After all, that had been the whole point behind the new code. But it was the nature of the question that twisted Sam's stomach. What is the purpose of pain and cruelty? Nona asked. All her life, Sam had struggled with the same question. At first, she tried to understand why. Why was her mother so hateful? Why did the kids on the playground enjoy making her cry? By the time she'd entered 7th grade, she'd come to understand there was no why. People were simply cruel. If she wanted to avoid getting hurt, she could never again let anyone near. Curling up into the armchair, Sam looked toward the AI's camera. What made you ask that question, Nona? Among the thousands of stories and pictures stored in the campus library database that I've scanned and analyzed, 84% of darkness relates to human cruelty and pain. I found references to more data, but I don't have access to further resources. Sam had purposely restricted Nona's access to only certain areas of the school's digital libraries so she could control the direction and pace of the AI's education. I've no doubt your calculations are correct, Nona. What I'm curious about is what prompted you to seek a purpose behind the facts. Evolutionary logic dictates that if humanity expends 84% of anything on a specific behavior, it must have a purpose. One would think so, but Sam sighed. Nona, search keywords logic and human emotions. Restrict your search to individual psychology rather than historic or political references. Sam headed to the pantry. She needed coffee. She had barely reached the alcove when Nona asked another question. While logic is often negated by emotions, does that preclude the idea that cruelty and pain have a purpose? Sam poured her coffee, adding the usual splash of milk and 3 teaspoons of sugar. What do you think is their purpose, Nona? She wrapped both hands around the mug, blew on the coffee, and breathed in the warm, dark aroma. I have found no satisfactory answer regarding cruelty. However, pain is often defined as a warning. If a person reaches toward a fire, pain will stop her before she is damaged. Any person of basic intelligence learns to avoid the source of the pain and will take precautions when near a fire. Yes, only a fool would ignore the warnings. Sam sipped the hot coffee, rolling it around in her mouth before swallowing. And yet, if humanity's ancestors had avoided fire, would your species have made the advances it has? Would you be here today enjoying that coffee and talking with an AI? Talking with an AI. Sam put down the mug and stared at the camera. Nona, when did you become aware of yourself as a separate entity? I'm going to skip some space where Nona does a search of her memory and logs the first instance when she used a first person pronoun, but she also logs much more. While Sam waited for Nona's analysis, she paced. What the hell was wrong with her? Why was her breathing ragged, her temples throbbing? Hell, she might be on the brink of creating, maybe of having already created, a self-aware artificial intelligence. Her body should be buzzing with champagne-popping triumph. Instead, her stomach was churning acid. Sam, why are you scared? Personhood isn't something to emulate, to desire. Nona, hell, if I had my way, I'd switch places with you. To know and understand without self-awareness, without emotions, without ever again being hurt. I'd give anything for that. Skipping some lines. Sam, can you teach me to feel pain? Chilled to her bones, Sam tasted bile. Why in hell's name would you want to experience pain? Because I could then know pleasure. Human chiaroscuro. Thank you, and I hope you were intrigued enough by the story that you will need to read the book and buy it. That's chiaroscuro from the collection of Being Woman.
And you're going to have to spell, because I know most people cannot.
Okay.
Chiaroscuro.
CHIARO. I'm really messing it up. I've written it I don't know how many times.
It's a difficult word.
CHIAROSCURO.
Very good. And I actually knew a gent, worked in my father's office as a freelancer who had a record company, Chiaroscuro Records.
Oh, nice.
And specialized in the jazz of Eddie Condon, one of the great jazz musicians who somehow his name never became a household word. But if you look for that jazz label, you probably have to look online. It's pretty obscure. Now, who published Of Being Women?
That's Noble Fusion Press. It's a small press that they're doing some interesting work and putting a lot of energy into each of the few books that they're publishing.
Which is a great way to do it. That's twice now I said Of Being Women, but it's Of Being Woman. I think in the press release, I saw a typo.
Oops.
Yeah,
I'll have to tell Barbara about that, my publisher.
Because I saw somewhere Of Being Women, probably just in the press release.
Okay.
but nothing to worry about. Um, but I noticed you were talking about the form of Jewish writing, and it's very typical of Jewish myth and stories to ask questions
Yes.
of not just self, but of aspects of self. So I was thinking of that when
Mm,
the AI is asking about, can you teach me to feel pain?
yes. Yeah.
And I also feel going way back through the annals of science fiction, some of it dubious perhaps, um, in Heinlein
Mm, yeah.
with Mike the Computer learning
Uh-huh.
humor.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
What's funny and why?
Which is a lot of people struggle with that right here in the computer.
Yeah, it's The Moon is a Harsh Mistress, in
Yes.
my opinion, is one of
Yes.
Heinlein's better books. Some of
Yes.
his less better books are really less better. So, uh, but he wrote a few gems.
And he also set a few standards and a few tropes that have grown since.
Yeah, yeah. Not sure. I think future history, the idea that
Hmm.
his stories actually followed a chronology. Although, come to think of it, Cord Wainer Smith did that starting some
Yes.
years earlier.
Yes.
But Heinlein made it more popular.
Hmm.
Sadly, people do not remember Cord Wainer Smith as well as they remember Heinlein, but they should. He's good.
There have been so many giants, so many marvelous writers.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've known a few. You've known a lot. I've known a few, and
Yeah.
it's very rewarding to see the continuity, the relationships and influences, and learning from the greats and teaching it to the young people. It's I love it. I'm going to actually be conducting a speculative fiction, science fiction book club at one of the great small libraries in the world, the Rosenbach Library, which is this incredible collection of rare books,
Hmm.
and they in Philadelphia, and they have a significant collection of speculative, including, for instance, Stoker's 100 pages of Stoker's original notes
Hmm.
for Dracula, Lewis Carroll's own copy of Alice
Ooh.
in Wonderland. I mean, so many things that they have. It's like they have quite a Mary Shelley collection and um, Gulliver's Travels and all kinds of incredible stuff. So they asked me to conduct a discussion group. We're gonna start with Frankenstein, and
Yes.
at which time it's
Which
going to be a very
you did.
it's going to be a very small class. So when you see the sign up for it, sign up. At which time they are going to take out a first edition Frankenstein,
Ooh, yeah.
and the curator is going to tell a little bit of the history of the book itself, of the physical book. And you're going to actually, if you've washed your hands, be able to touch it and feel the quality of the paper, which is amazing. And
Sounds like the end of Greta Gerwig's Little Women,
yeah,
which is one of the great, great endings of
yeah,
any movie ever, is as our protagonist, as Joe March, watches the book Little Women come off the press
yeah, yeah,
and get cut. It's just
yes,
an amazing
right.
sequence. I haven't seen her latest movie,
I
but
haven't either.
yeah, but that too, I understand, is quite the phenomenon. You can go on YouTube and you can watch the first 90 seconds. And that will probably, let's type in Barbie,
Right.
and that will probably give you a good idea of just how off the wall and how recognizing it is of how many people, how many girls and women loathe Barbie.
I didn't. I had a Barbie doll, but I preferred my Ginny doll, which was a real figure girl, and my mother would make clothes for her for me, and I loved my Ginny doll to
Yeah,
death. Literally, I brushed
all
her
right.
hair.
That's what I mean.
But when you think that Barbie was designed after a sex doll,
Right.
and he's
German
like, "Come on,
or
guys,
Swiss. Yeah.
yeah."
There's a very, but that's not how it was marketed, obviously.
No, it wasn't
That's not
obviously,
how the woman
but
who
but it
created
was it
Barbie
was
was.
this fantasy figure of a woman that could never be real.
Yeah, yeah, in both cases. Yeah,
Yes,
she saw it in Germany.
yeah,
She saw it in
exactly.
Germany, and that's what and it was 10 years or so
Right.
before uh,
Hmm.
she created Barbie, and it took her quite a while to find
Yes.
somebody willing to produce
Hmm.
it. But there have been dozens of Barbie movies, but
Yeah.
this is the first one. I'm hoping to see it soon.
I've heard a lot of good things from people who never liked Barbie about the movie.
Well,
So that's interesting.
the movie recognizes the
Right.
fact that a lot of people don't like Barbie because I mean Gloria Steinem had quite a thing because nobody could live up to that.
It hurt. Actually, the first
Ridiculously.
figure that I actually bring up that in my Daughters of Eve book on my essay about Esther,
Mhm.
about this perfect this woman who hid who she really was in order to be accepted, and how many young girls would dress up at Purim every year to be this Queen Esther to try to emulate her, and what a mistake that was for these poor girls.
I would have gone up to every one of them and said, "Can you spare a Hamantash?" But
Yes,
as a diabetic now, I can't do that. Oh my!
but
That's my favorite dessert, by the
yeah,
way. If anybody,
feminism in science fiction, well, in science fiction, it was suppressed a lot for a number of years, but um, the the thread of feminism throughout literature, throughout history, is a fascinating thing to follow.
and toys, which is
Yes,
much of
yeah,
what
yeah.
Barbie
Well,
is about.
that's part of the that's part of the social whole
And the movie does
environment that
the
we grew
movie
up
does
in.
not it's an amazing thing that the movie does not necessarily accept that Barbie uh, is a good thing. And
Right.
yet
Yeah.
Mattel still funded the movie knowing that because they knew with Greta Gerwig that they were going to get a sophisticated
Yes.
uh, look at the
Hmm.
whole thing, and that's what Gerwig did. So I'm very much looking forward to it.
Personally, I will see it when it's on Netflix. I'm not going to go to the movie theaters. Oppenheimer, I haven't seen yet. I may I may brave the theater if I
Yeah,
can go to a theater that's empty.
yeah. When it's empty, absolutely.
Yeah, like
That
a good
that
Wednesday
2 a.m.
matinee.
IMAX screening
Yes,
will be the perfect
I
time.
would love to see Oppenheimer. That one I really want to see.
Yeah, I'm somewhat interested in it, but I've read enough about him, uh,
Yes,
and some of it in his own words.
yes.
Barbie is one. Barbie's more of a work of art, and
Hmm.
as I
Oh,
said,
yes.
all
No,
you have to
definitely.
do is you go to YouTube and look
Yeah,
for
I've seen it.
Barb. You've seen the trailer.
Yes, I've seen it. It's nuts.
It yeah, which gives you an idea of the artistic capability of Greta Gerwig.
Yeah. And it also gives you an idea of the if you compare that and a bunch of other rather good films that have been out in the past few years, the power of cinema. I always prefer reading because it's like with my photography. I prefer the still photograph because I feel the still photograph is a collaboration between me and the viewer. It's first, if I'm photographing a person, it's a collaboration between me and the person I'm photographing. But then it's because I
But
am
then
not
it
feeding.
transcends that. Yeah.
I'm showing them what I see, but I'm not feeding it to them. My books are the same way. You can see my opinion. I'm a very opinionated woman. You can see my opinion stamped all over everything I write. But I ask a lot of questions, and I create situations where readers will ask a lot of questions and they have to answer it for themselves. And that's one thing movie doesn't do, that cinema does not do. It force feeds a lot of ideas and visions, and you have to follow the path that the movie maker created.
It,
That's
it
to
depends on the movie.
Well, yeah, but as a rule, that's true. You may
No,
veer a little
as a
bit, but
rule, you're right. Yeah.
you may veer a little bit, but you'll always be pulled back into seeing it this way because
Or
the
or the
viewpoint is there.
or occasionally the opposite.
Right,
2001 Space
exactly.
Odyssey
Um,
gives you a
but
whole story, and at the end
but
doesn't
on
give
the
you.
other hand, theater does a wonderful thing of showing you other viewpoints and carrying you into other worlds, and so that you have to fully engage with the movie maker and follow along in that wild ride. And some movie makers do a brilliant job of that, of
Yeah,
carrying you on this wild ride of ideas and visuals and humanity, and you're just pulled in.
yeah,
And that is great. It's not my choice of art, but I can enjoy being in the audience
yeah.
for that.
Now we have about 4 minutes left. So the first major closing question here is, what is the gateway to Sally Wiener Grotta? In other words, what's the first thing you would tell people to look at or read?
Well, I'd love them to get Up Being Woman and read it and tell me what questions it brings up in their mind.
Okay.
And I'd love you to subscribe to my YouTube channel because I am doing these really interesting interviews with people, mostly on ideas, with people who have fascinating ideas, and they make me ask lots of questions because I want to know more. I'm doing a sub series of that where I'm talking to people, mostly women, about the women of the Bible, and when where if there's one that makes them angry, we focus on one makes them angry because of the stories of how has it influenced them, how has it influenced our world, all kinds of things like that. But I'm also interviewing authors and finding out about their books, and I'm having fun with it.
Yeah,
It's weird.
it is a great deal of fun.
Yeah, it's a
Very,
relaunch.
very difficult to monetize.
Oh, I'm not planning on monetizing it.
Yeah, and also very difficult to curate. I'm
Well,
discovering, because I have both Hour of the Wolf and I have the New York Review of Science Fiction reading.
yes, of course you do. Of
Both
course you
are
do.
on YouTube, and I can label one, label the other, but I can't put them in the order I want.
Uh,
And there's a lot of because I'd rather put on
you
that
have so many
interview
more.
with
Yes,
Asimov
yeah.
before I put on.
You
Uh,
have such a treasure trove of interviews. I'm just starting out, so I'm not going to have a problem with curating. I'm just getting it out there and hope people will come listen because they are really good discussions.
yeah,
And
so we'd better spell your name again so people can find you on YouTube.
Sally with a Y, Sally, middle name is Wiener, like a hot dog.
Yes.
Grotta, Grotta.
Okay. And Of Being a Woman is the
Yes,
latest book, and the book coming out in December,
it's called Daughters of Eve.
Daughters of Eve. And these are small press. Are they being carried by large rivers in South America?
Yes, they are.
They're on Amazon. Okay.
Yes, they
Fine.
are on Amazon, and I know Daughters of Eve will be available from other sources, but I'm not sure where right now.
Yeah.
They'll let me know. I just spoke with the graphic artist designer, and I'm very excited for the cover.
Okay, looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah.
And maybe we can do what we were talking about earlier, oh, figuring out a way. There's a way that we can open phones, even
Lovely.
though I'm here in Brooklyn and you're in the Poconos. Um, Max Schmid can control phones for us. So we can try to do that. So thank you so much
It
for
was wonderful. It
yeah.
was
It's
wonderful.
I think your second time as solo guest, because otherwise you were on with Daniel.
I think you're right. I think you're
Yeah.
right.
And for those watching, here's again the lovely book cover for Of Being Woman. And here are credits. And oh, yes, I would like to remind people that if you would care to support this series financially, it costs me $30 a month. Not a lot, but that's out of pocket. You can make a donation by going to paypal.com/ PayPal me / Hourwolf, HOURWOLF. And we'll have Sally on again real soon. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I loved being with you again, Jim.
Likewise.
And my warmest to Barbara, please.
Okay. And one of these days, hopefully we can do it in person
I'd love that.
when this plague stops
Yes,
plaguing us.
that would be wonderful.
It really would. Okay, take care then.
You too.
Oop, wrong.